They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Fat doesn't make you fat. I've just given you the basic science here. What makes you fat? It's the glucose. It's the carbs. And here we've got our pancreas. And our pancreas, it releases two hormones. One is insulin, and insulin's the hormone.
In this video, you'll uncover a hidden health risk linked to common foods that could be silently undermining your well-being. Don't miss this crucial insight with expert Barbara O'Neill. Stay with us because every moment unlocks a longer, vibrant life.
Looking at high blood pressure, we'll be looking at, of course, the heart. The number one killer in Australia today, is heart disease. It's actually neck to neck with cancer. We touched on cancer last night, so we'll be looking at the other number one, which is heart disease / high blood pressure, and also diabetes. Now, I've only got 45 minutes here with you, but you will find that very similar principles are affecting both of them. And Hippocrates, one of them, his most quoted statements is, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. So what I'd like to look at is how food affects diabetes and high blood pressure. And never in the history of mankind have human beings eaten so many carbohydrates.
High blood pressure, hypertension, is a major contributor to heart disease and diabetes. Research from the American Heart Association highlights that excessive carbohydrate intake, especially refined carbs, can lead to weight gain and elevate hypertension risk. Refined carbs act like fast-burning fuel, quickly raising blood sugar levels and over time contributing to insulin resistance. This increase in insulin resistance elevates the risk of type 2 diabetes, adding stress to the cardiovascular system. Studies show that reducing refined carbohydrates in favor of complex carbs or whole foods, like those found in the DASH, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, diet, can significantly lower blood pressure. The DASH diet emphasizes high fruit and vegetable intake, low refined carb consumption, and has been shown to effectively support heart health.
So let's do an assessment of the carbohydrates that Australians are eating. And no matter where I go in the world, in America, in Scotland, in England, in New Zealand, it's the same. So most people have cereal for breakfast. We know because there's a whole aisle devoted to it. And also bread. There's a whole aisle devoted to bread. And if you go into the supermarket and see a whole aisle devoted to something, you've got a pretty good idea that it's a hot topic, eh? It's something that a lot of people buy. And cake shops abound, cakes, biscuits, so we'll say cakes, etc. And pies, Australians love their pies, pizzas. Italians have introduced Aussies to pizza and pasta. I'm a fifth generation Australian, Scottish descent. I didn't know what pasta was till I was about 18. I don't think there's a home without pasta today. Rice is another carbohydrate. I'm married to an Irishman, so every main meal must contain potatoes. Michael and I went to Scotland last year, 2017 in June, and Michael was so happy because we ate in English pubs, and in the food there's about 3 or 4 different types of potatoes. Lots of potatoes. They have lots of veggies too, that's why we could eat there.
Globally, modern diets have shifted towards high carbohydrate, processed foods due to convenience and availability. Unfortunately, these diets often lack essential nutrients found in whole foods. Research from the National Institutes of Health links diets high in processed carbs to a higher prevalence of metabolic syndrome, a collection of conditions including high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and abnormal cholesterol levels, which together raise the risk of heart disease and diabetes. Switching to whole, unprocessed foods has been shown to support weight management, stabilize blood sugar, and reduce blood pressure. Harvard Health research also highlights that minimizing ultra-processed carbs and adding more fiber-rich foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains can significantly reduce the risk of metabolic syndrome.
And last and certainly least in nutritive value is the pure crystallized acid that's extracted from the sugarcane plant. Would you agree with me? Aussies are high carbohydrate consumers. Now, all of these foods in the gastrointestinal tract, which I will show you tomorrow night, they break down to a singular structure called glucose. So when these foods get broken down to glucose, the glucose gets into the blood, and then it goes on the main highway straight to the project manager, which is called liver. And we're going to look at that a little bit in the next lecture. But the liver sends it, first of all, to the CBD, Central Business District of the human body.
When we consume carbohydrates, they're broken down into glucose and absorbed into the bloodstream. The liver helps regulate blood sugar by converting excess glucose into glycogen for storage. However, when glycogen stores are full, the liver converts this surplus glucose into fat, leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, which is increasingly common and linked to high-carb diets, as highlighted in Mayo Clinic research. Think of the liver as a storage unit that can only hold so much. Once it's full, the extra glucose gets stored as fat, often leading to NAFLD, a condition now affecting nearly 25% of adults worldwide. Reducing refined carbs and choosing balanced meals can prevent NAFLD and promote better liver health.
And that glucose goes into the cell. And when the glucose goes into the cell, it goes under the action of insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door to get glucose into the cell. It then goes through a 20-step pathway, 20 little chemical reactions, which delivers to us 2 units of energy. The end result of this 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. Pyruvate, as the chemical form of glucose, gets fed into what's often called the powerhouse. Called the powerhouse because even though it's only an 8-step pathway, it delivers to us a whopping 36 units of energy. So what makes the difference? How come an 8-step pathway gives us 36 and a 20-step pathway only gives us 2? The difference is oxygen. So this is what's often called an aerobic pathway, meaning it uses oxygen to produce energy, whereas this pathway is called anaerobic. Anaerobic meaning no oxygen. It actually produces energy by the process of fermentation.
The body uses 2 main pathways for energy: aerobic, oxygen-dependent, and anaerobic, non-oxygen. Aerobic pathways fuel sustained activities like walking or jogging and produce long-lasting energy. In contrast, anaerobic pathways provide short bursts of energy for high-intensity activities, but they can quickly lead to fatigue due to lactic acid buildup. Harvard Health points out that aerobic exercise can improve cardiovascular health and increase endurance by supporting oxygen-efficient energy pathways. Think of aerobic energy as a marathon runner and anaerobic energy as a sprinter. Both pathways are essential but serve different purposes. Incorporating moderate aerobic exercise, like 30 minutes of brisk walking 5 days a week, can boost heart health and energy levels.
So the first place that the glucose is sent is to the cell to be burnt as fuel. That's not a surprise. But on a high carbohydrate diet, there's still a lot of glucose left over. And so now the liver causes some of it to be stored in the cell like a little bunch of grapes, but they're little molecules of glucose. And they're stored there for when we need them. And they're called glycogen. Glycogen is a name given to quick-release glucose stores. This explains why when you wake up in the morning and do your morning exercise, you don't need to eat first. You will get energy because inside your cell, particular muscle cell, there are little molecules of glucose just waiting to be plucked when the need arises.
When glycogen storage is full, excess glucose is converted to fat, which increases body fat percentage and may lead to weight gain. NIH studies have shown that high intake of refined carbs results in more stored fat and less muscle glycogen. Preserving muscle glycogen helps maintain energy levels for physical activity, while excess refined carbs lead to fat storage, reducing metabolic efficiency. Think of glycogen as fuel reserves for your muscles. By cutting down on refined carbs and relying on these reserves, your body can improve metabolic flexibility and fat utilization. Studies suggest that approaches like intermittent fasting can help tap into these glycogen and fat stores for energy, supporting weight management and metabolic health.
But on a high carbohydrate diet, we've still got glucose left over. And so now, the liver causes that excess glucose to be stored in the most amazing fuel depot in the human body, fat. And on this high carbohydrate diet, what's happening to Australians? They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Fat doesn't make you fat. I've just given you the basic science here. What makes you fat? It's the glucose. It's the carbs. And here we've got our pancreas. And our pancreas, it releases two hormones. One is insulin, and insulin's the hormone designed to get the blood glucose down again when it goes high. And if it goes down, if the blood glucose goes too low, then glucagon is released. And glucagon is the hormone that's released if blood glucose goes too low to get it up again.
Excess glucose on a high carbohydrate diet is initially stored as glycogen, but when glycogen stores are full, it is converted into fat. This process leads to weight gain, particularly with frequent high-carb intake. According to research by the American Heart Association, excess blood glucose from high-carb diets prompts the pancreas to release more insulin, which can contribute to insulin resistance over time and increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. Research shows that frequent high insulin levels can lead to metabolic complications and weight gain, especially as excess glucose is stored as fat when glycogen capacity is maxed out. Limiting refined carbs and increasing fiber can help prevent this cycle, supporting stable blood sugar and minimizing fat storage. Studies reveal that a balanced carb intake helps control blood sugar and reduces insulin spikes, preventing fat buildup and supporting healthier metabolism. Your presence here is so important, and I'm grateful for every minute you invest in your health. Subscribe to the channel, and if you've made it to the end, comment. I'm committed to my longevity. Let's keep evolving together on this vibrant journey toward better health.